I've worked now with hundreds, if not thousands of nonprofits or spoken to them at some level. No one has ever said, I have amazingly clean data. My CRM is fantastic. It's kind of like organizing your closet. Like you're never really happy with how it's organized. Everyone's got a messy database, but AI helps us clean it up and figure it out. So when we look at words of affirmation, Dataro will run a prediction on monthly donors and we'll say something like, hey, these 18 monthly donors you have, we predict that within 2 months, they're going to cancel their monthly gift. And that is pretty dang accurate.
And it's like really opening my mind to like the different ways you can really play around with someone's love language. And I'm like, okay, I just need to look at that data, I think, in a love language way.
If you don't have that central source of truth and all of the other tools aren't able to learn from that and act based on that data, you're leaving a lot on the table there.
You're listening to The Nonprofit Boost, where Double the Donation and industry leaders share practical tips to help you grow revenue and boost corporate fundraising at your nonprofit. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Nonprofit Boost podcast. I'm your host, Immaculate. Today's topic is data. So some people, it's a passion. For some, maybe less so. So that's why we're going to take a fresh perspective today. We constantly hear that data is like the new oil, something that can make building donor relationships a lot more seamless. And while that does happen, as data grows, it can become a bit overwhelming, leading to the sense of data paralysis. It starts to feel a little bit clunky, maybe something that's weighing you down, increasing that risk of generic, non-personalized stewardship that in turn can negatively affect the donor experience. So to close this gap, a strategic pivot is needed, specifically in like data collection, hygiene, and segmentation. And this shift is crucial for efficiently moving the needle in donor stewardship and significantly improving the donor experience. And joining me in this conversation is Salvatore Salpietro, the Chief Growth Officer at Dataro. So Sal is a nonprofit savvy tech and digital expert. He transitioned to Dataro after serving as a founding employee and holding multiple C-level titles at a native platform, Fundraise Up. He is passionate about optimizing generosity and bridging the technology gap for nonprofits. Sal, welcome to the show. Very happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Immaculate. I'm glad to be here.
Yay. Well, to jump into this conversation, let's establish a little bit of a context first. You've collaborated with a large number of large institutions that amass a lot of information. They have a lot of supporters, they have a lot of data, and there's this term that kind of like floats around when you have a lot of data, but then you don't actually utilize it. It becomes like your data graveyard. And so I just wanted to get a little bit of your insights of like how a practice like that could actually be contributing to poor data quality and really hindering a personalized donor experience for these organizations and their supporters.
Big question. Lots in there to kind of jump into. We can take it any direction. I've worked now with hundreds, if not thousands of nonprofits or spoken to them at some level. No one has ever said, I have amazingly clean data. My CRM is fantastic, right? No one's happy with it. It's kind of like, like organizing your closet. Like you're never really happy with how it's organized and, you could always do better. So I would start with saying, don't let the fact that you feel you might not have clean data or a high level of data hygiene block you or stop you or give you any sort of action paralysis. Everyone has the same problem. Everyone is struggling with the same thing. That's our starting point. If we want to create a positive and a personalized experience for donors, we need to be looking at tools that are going to enable us to do that. And they might be dependent on our historical CRM and our historical data, like Dataro. Dataro looks at your historical database and it makes sense of it. Everyone's got a messy database, but AI helps us clean it up and figure it out with some accuracy. And then some tools will be contributing to clean data, like Double the Donation, right? You guys are putting in the employer name, you're formatting it, you're taking Disney World and making it Walt Disney Company Inc. and so on, and it's going in a formatted way. And then some tools, like where I was before at Fundraise Up, It doesn't need your CRM. It doesn't need you to have clean data to give a good experience. So it's using just basic principles of what a positive donor experience is, a personalization, to make that experience feel more relevant. So in a nutshell, we all have data issues that can't block us, that can't stop us. We can still achieve what we're looking. Correct.
Yes. That's like, I think the hardest step is like accepting that it's going to be a little messy, but there's like ways to get through this.
You're never going to have it right. It's never going to be perfect. You're fine.
Imperfect is okay, guys. Well, I guess to delve a little bit more into that question, because we did talk about a little bit of like things that you're collecting. Like we collect a certain amount of data in ours as well. And so is there like any specific data points that we should be looking at that's like important, I guess, for a personalized experience, or is everything important?
Everything's overwhelming. So let's start with small things. Now, I know the listener base here is, can be anything from a massive nonprofit that's, multinational, and it can be a small nonprofit. But what I see them all lacking for the most part is asking donors how their experience was. Now, this is a slight tangent, but I think it's a building block, right?
Yeah.
Immaculate, I mean, you buy things. You bought coffee before. You bought a plane ticket, right? And you get an email after, and it says 1 to 10. How was your experience?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Guess how? I'll be in a room of hundreds of nonprofits, and I'll ask, how many of you have gotten a similar message after a donation? Crickets. No one. Nobody. Nonprofits don't send out things or include on the thank you email, smiley face to frown face and anything in the middle. Like, how was your experience giving? We don't ask. So let's take it back a step and kind of say, we can just start using data from the donors themselves when they say it was a good experience or not a good experience. A lot of your happiest donors will give feedback, and a lot of your unhappiest, which is great because that's where you can really dive into to know what to do better and what to fix. So that's a piece of data that we can use. Now, most of us are using things like RFM and filtering methods to create donor segmentation around who gives a certain amount or who likes cats or who likes dogs. But really, and that's a fine place to start. But as we mature as a nonprofit, like you said, all the data, like you can use all the data. Humans can't really, because it's too much to digest and understand. I can't correlate and measure across 100 data points.
Yeah.
Right. Imagine if you had to rank everything in your room or in your closet or in your fridge by not all, food type, but also expiration date, but also number of calories, but also this, but also what might be gluten, what might be this, what might be organic. You can.
Yeah.
But AI can, right? Tools. So AI can say, hey, let's bring it back to tools, where AI can say, hey, these are 150 data points, 200, 500. We can draw correlations and patterns across them. So we just kind of discussed really at a high level using no data and asking donors for their experience and feedback, and then using tools, right? And then that can be done with a Google form and a link in an email. Like, you don't need to be a developer. You don't need to buy new tools. You just need to add a link to your thank you email that says, how was your experience? Click it and go to a Google form. That's it, right? Check it out once a month, see what people said. And then the other end of that spectrum is tools like Dataro that are saying, hey, let me look at who your employer is. Let me look if you've done employer matching. Let me look if you've made a larger gift. If you are located in this zip code, what your behavior patterns are. Do you open our emails? Do you visit our website? And then make predictions. There's so much, right?
There's
and then you can draw all of that back to create predictions around what a donor might be most willing to do with your organization. Those both in themselves, we went from the smallest to the largest and most comprehensive application of data. They both can give a lot of valuable information to an organization to connect with their donors better.
That was very digestible. At least I'm not as overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, there is ways
I
to
hope
like
so. I'm trying
step
to,
into it.
yeah, we can step into it without going crazy, and do little things, and then realize that those small wins open the door to much bigger wins.
Nonprofits are always being asked to do more with limited time and resources. Double the Donations virtual summits offer practical insights, expert advice, and actionable ideas to help you grow your impact. Check out the summit calendar and register at doubletheDonation.com/virtual-summits. We'll see you there.
You touched a little bit about like segmentation. You said that earlier. And you actually brought up, you had like a blog about a specific framework that I was very interested in because I've never heard it being used, or like, I just was like, that's usually like something for Valentine's Day, or relationships, which is like the 5 love languages. And so for those who aren't familiar, the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. And so could you like elaborate a little bit about this more, like this framework and how that kind of like applies to donors? How could you even use that for donors? And specifically, how can you find that love language within your data? Because I was already like, what data points am I supposed to be looking at that to figure those out?
Great question. So let's look at something like words of affirmation. That is saying thank you to a donor, right? That is knowing how to make them feel appreciated as contributing to your organization. So I'll share some of the workings of how AI can help with this, and this should be a pretty clear example and digestible, hopefully, for the audience and yourself. Monthly donors. Monthly donors, right? They'll stick around for 12 months, 18, 36. Different organizations have different monthly donor retention rates. Now, donors will cancel at some point. They often do. Many of them cancel simply because they feel, much like in a relationship or a marriage, they feel disconnected, right? That I don't feel part of your world. And look, I've had my share of marriage counseling in my family, in my marriage, and it helps, right? But like, to understand these concepts, you forget to say thank you. You forget to acknowledge because you take it for granted. Nonprofits are doing that. So when we look at words of affirmation, Dataro will run a prediction on monthly donors, and we'll say something like, hey, these 18 monthly donors you have, we predict that within 2 months, they're going to cancel their monthly gift. And that is pretty dang accurate. We're almost always correct. And then we'll have, organizations that will take that advice or that prediction we'll give them, and they'll go, I don't believe you. And then sure enough, most of them within 2 months cancel. And then we'll have a separate set of organizations that will see those predictions and those recommendations, and we'll say, I'm just going to call them and say thank you. That's all I'm going to do. I've got 18 monthly donors that Dataro says are going to cancel in the next 2 months. It could be 18, it could be 100, it could be 500. And I'm just going to call each one of them and say, thank you for your monthly gift. We've been able to feed 100 children, save 100 dogs, plant 100 trees, whatever it is. And we appreciate you. Hang up. Don't ask for more money. And 80% of those people will stay because words of affirmation, because thank you, because you see me, because you appreciate me, because you communicated with me. So these aren't just fluff. These are actual mechanics of humanity and emotion, and buying something isn't the same as giving. And I want to know that my donation is going to help feed kids. I donate to food banks. I donate to animal shelters and ecological things personally. And I want to make sure that I know once in a while, what is my gift doing? So that's one example. And then we look at other things, right? Like touch, right? I like in touch in the nonprofit space. You go, whoa, I don't want lawsuits.
That one confused me. I was like, right? How is that happening?
Right? It's how do we communicate with them? Where's the you ever hear the word in marketing touch point? Like, what's the touch point? Right?
Okay.
So now we're coming back to it, right? So I'm a donor that always has my phone within inches of where I'm sitting. So I prefer text messages, right? As a channel.
Yeah.
And my parents, they might take 2 days to respond to me on a text.
Oh, okay.
But guess what? But yeah, or a phone call, right? Or they want a phone call. But if I mail them a card, they will love a card in the mail, my parents. You kidding me? If I wrote them a little handwritten letter, that's their way of touch, right? That's how I'm going to communicate with them through that way. Some people are mail, some are email, some are text. And AI can actually sort that out for you and say, hey, looking at their behavior patterns, right? I'm looking at your behavior patterns. They're always opening their emails on a mobile device, but they tend to give through the mail. Weird. Okay. That's how it is. That's their way of that's their love language. And some might say, well, text message is the way to reach them, and so on and so forth. So there's touch and all of the, I think we can, you can link to the blog maybe if you'd like to, but there's different love languages. We could go through all of them, and it can map back to how we create a more personal experience for donors.
Yeah, thank you. That actually jogged my memory because I also gave at one point to a cause that I really liked. And I always thought of myself as a donor that's like, I know I won't get anything in return. And it's like, but it's okay because I'm giving. And then I gave. And for some odd reason, I felt a little sour because there was never a text message of thank you. And I'm like, oh,
nothing.
I kind of expected at least one thank you. And then so I was like, I didn't realize how much that would affect my experience as a donor. So there you go, words of affirmation. I didn't know I was a word of affirmation person, but apparently I am. And so if they have a little survey there that's like, did we do a good job? I'd be like, can you just say thank you? I had to reply to that survey immediately and be like, y'all.
Absolutely.
I couldn't get that information.
I think that there was a study by Next After that said between 20 and 25% or so of nonprofits don't send a thank you email. It's like, didn't your mama teach you manners? Say thank you.
It's an easy touch point.
It's easy. And to anybody who's listening or whoever picks this up, just go make a donation to your own organization for $5 that you work at. If you can't squeeze out $5, maybe you shouldn't be working there. A little bit of a hot take, but try that $5 test. See what that experience is like for a donor. Do I get a thank you email? Do I get a welcome series? Do I get something 6 months down the line? And see what it's like to be the donor. More often
put yourself
than not,
in their shoes.
Very often folks have not put themselves in the shoes. And I think if the organization you donated to you hopefully would have had that acknowledgement and felt more appreciated as a donor.
I love that. Yeah. Wait, sorry, that made me think of another thing because we already touched on touch and what's it called? Affirmations. So I was thinking acts of service and gifts. And I was like, oh, wait, that actually can really meld well. If you have, again, other data points, for example, I was just thinking in a double the donation sense, if you know that someone's love language is acts of service or gifts, and then you would know that the company that they work for, which is data that you probably could have collected already, offers a matching gift, then they could combine that messaging in a way that, hey, I know you love giving gifts as your sign, your love language. Would you like to match your gift, double your gift? So it's really opening my mind to the different ways you can really play around with someone's love language. And I'm like, okay, I just need to look at that data, I think, in a love language way. Because it doesn't seem as intimidating, I think, sometimes either. If it's not, it feels a lot more human as well. It's I love language. Humans love. That's a human emotion. So I'm like, okay, I'm really excited to look at some data now and be like, what's their love language? I feel like it's a little.
See if you can make a little, maybe you can make a little PDF game that has the 5, and you can always, kind of just say, what does this thing fall under? Okay, this is this, and you could kind of have a matrix or something, a
matrix. It was just super fun. But again, we talked a little about segmentation. We talked a little bit about how to collect the data. At the end of the day, another thing that comes up, when we are collecting data is that you mentioned this actually earlier as well, that we're humans, we're people. We're constantly changing. We're constantly growing, transforming. People's love languages might change. And so I'm just curious if you have any tips about how we can maintain that data so then we're always up to date about what that love language of that supporter or donor.
First is to make sure that your tools, if you're using multiple tools, are integrated and talking to each other. That feels like a 101, so that your employment matching is connecting to the donation form, and that is sending the data to the CRM. Because to start, if you don't have that central source of truth and all of the other tools aren't able to learn from that and act based on that data, you're leaving a lot on the table there. But do you have volunteers? Now, this is something I learned a couple weeks ago, a month ago now. For organizations that have volunteers, think food banks, animal shelters, etc., they are something like twice as likely to make a planned gift or a legacy gift in will, right? So when they pass, they'll leave their house or some of their money they've saved and so on. And over half of all legacy gifts come from those that are volunteers. Now, why is that? Volunteers are often cash poor. They don't have a lot of money in the pockets, but they might have a house they raised their family in, right? They might have a lot of assets, asset rich. So I want to help, but I don't have the money, right? I'm on a pension, but I do live in a big house that, I won't be here forever to live in. So if you don't know and aren't tracking the data about who's volunteering at your food bank on weekends, then how are you ever going to know who to reach out to ask for a planned giving or a gift in will, a legacy gift, right? So that's one concrete example of making sure that your volunteer software is sending the fact that they volunteer to your CRM that your fundraisers are working out of. Because very often, your volunteer coordinator or manager will be working over here in an organization, and they'll be siloed and never log into the CRM. They'll always be in the volunteer management software, and your fundraisers are over here looking for their next mid-level or major donor, and they don't know who's volunteering. So that's an example of where that information needs to be over here, and
so
it will help the entire organization work more efficiently.
Connect each other. Yeah. And then I guess it goes back to the point, if you're collecting all this data, again, not using it, then you're back at step number one, where it's like, guys, you're not utilizing it to the best of your abilities, or like maximizing. Yeah. Okay.
And tools as they come on the market, and Dataro is doing this, and there's a number of others out there that are saying, look, I know you've got too much data. We're going to use AI. We understand where it's supposed to go, what it's supposed to mean. We're going to analyze it for you and make this simple for you. And instead of trying to do a 17-column spreadsheet, you just need one column, which is how likely is this donor to do X. That's it. You just need a prediction score at that point. And that is where things really get interesting and efficient for the space, and we can have a lot more impact across all the missions that we're working toward.
Well, that sounds like a nice topic, maybe for another episode though, because we sadly are like at our time. So we have one more question, which I'd love to, when we're at this podcast, we love to give like actionable advice at the very end. So to wrap up, my last question for you today, Sal, is if you could share like a 30-day roadmap for those who are starting to use like the donor love language, what would that look like? What should their first steps be for they can like use that love language in 30 days and enhance their donor experience? Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to pull one thing that we talked about, and I think like I said, I think it's a foundational building block, and then I'll add one other thing in. So the first thing is let's ask the donors for feedback on their experience. If you don't talk, you're never going to know. So everybody here, if you are listening and you are at a 10,000 person nonprofit or a 1 person nonprofit, you can create a form that just has them rate from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. How was their experience? And a box for comments. If you want to send me a DM, I already created a template for this. I can give this to anybody who wants it. So the one tip to get into the love language kind of mindset is start asking, how was it with our organization? What can I do better? What can I do more of? What should I do less of? So there's number one. Number two, this is, the world at large. We're grappling with AI and how it's transforming our work. For nonprofits, I would suggest going to Anthropic's website. And there is a AI adoption for nonprofit professionals certificate that you could get for free. And it's in collaboration with Giving Tuesday, who I know Double the Donation is a partner of and provides data to. And they've created the certification to help nonprofits begin wrapping their minds around utilizing and leveraging AI in how they fundraise and connect to donors. So those are the two things.
Yeah.
And I think that those are both very achievable within 30 days.
Really, yeah. Yeah. And then I love when you like build on skills that you already like, you're having to do it anyways. Guys, you can like take the course and then you can improve your experience as well. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sal, for sharing so much about your experience and also what you've gone through. And then also that 5 love languages, like that was so cool. For anyone, because you did say if anyone wants to DM you, what's the best way to reach out to you and maybe even Dataro, if ever?
Sure. Email me at Salvatore, SALVATORE at Dataro.io, DATARIO. Sorry,
we can add it in the description, guys.
ARO.io. Or find me on LinkedIn, Salvatore Salpietro. I'm usually on there sharing links and tips and tricks and things like that stuff. So,
I love that. Yay. Again, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. And thank you for everyone who tuned into this podcast. If you'd like to learn more topics like this, feel free to subscribe to be notified about new episodes. Bye, everyone. Have a good day. Here's your next steps. Visit doublethedonation.com to explore the tools and strategies that schools and nonprofits use to unlock more revenue through corporate fundraising. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share the video with your team and peers.